We have a major problem with how we ramp new account executives. Your new AEs are being declared ramped at 3 or 6 months, but can they actually run discovery or execute the sales process without you jumping in to save them? Most can't, and that's the problem. Most sales teams ramp reps based on time in seat and not capability-based onboarding where you certify your new sellers. So I built a playbook full of frameworks, implementation roadmaps, and infrastructure guides that cut ramp time in half and have proven to improve win rates by 75%, and it's completely free. So stop this episode right now and go and download the Sales Readiness Playbook at therevenueenabler.com or use the link in the description below. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hit Your Numbers podcast. Today I am joined by Simon. Hey Simon, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, James. Thanks for having me.
No, looking forward to the conversation. And today we're talking about how to drive more pipeline and ultimately revenue with SDR and AE pods, but also I think really nailing that ICP piece, which I know you've been doing a lot of hard work on recently, Simon. So just before we jump into that, maybe just give the listeners the 30,000 foot view. Who are you? What have you been up to? Just for context, and then we can jump into the conversation.
Yeah, of course. My name is Simon. I work at a company called BeyondTrust. Essentially, BeyondTrust, what we do is we help companies reduce cyber risk by securing identities and access across their entire environment by protecting privileged users, human, non-human identity. With the rise of AI, it's a big sort of topic at the moment, but essentially mitigating the impact of breaches and insider threats through least privilege. So I joined here just over two years ago now. Came in as a SDR manager looking after UK and Northern Europe. And sort of since then I've progressed into a senior manager, and coming down the line is I'll be looking after sort of the whole of the international region outside of America, which is frightening, but also it's a really good time to really sort of double down on a lot of things that we've been working on the last sort of 18 months. And a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today have been sort of the guiding principles, I think, that have led us to the success that we've had in that time frame for sure.
Love it. So you've been around the block. This isn't the first time you're doing it, and getting some good traction from doing it. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff today. So yeah, really appreciate you taking the time. Anyone that's watching this, because some people will watch this, not just listen back to it, and you're probably wondering what the hell's happened to my hair. So maybe we'll just squash that before we get into the chat. I've not lost my mind and shaved it all off. We were talking about it before the podcast started. I went and had a hair transplant. I did talk about it on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, but I appreciate I'm not Bill Gates and I've not got millions of followers and everyone's studying everything I do. So if you're watching this going, what the hell happened since the last podcast I listened to? There's the context. No, it doesn't hurt. Yes, I'm going to look like I'm 18 again. So watch this space. Anyway, thought we'd get that out there. So, because I'll end up just getting asked Simon in the DMs afterwards. So there we go. Gives everyone 30 minutes of their day back. So we kind of spoke about this in the prep, right? But like a lot of companies that I see that I've ever worked with, when I was a sales leader or when I was a rep, but now in the business that we run, a lot of companies say they've got, real good clarity on their ideal customer profile. And then typically when we lift up the hood, it's super generic. Yeah. And we'll probably get into that today. But from your experience, like I know you've been really obsessing over this recently, what actually makes a really strong ICP in your perspective? And how do you find that? And then a couple of quarters later, how do you know that was the right thing to double down on? Maybe you could just talk us through that to start with.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always, you've got to be method behind the madness in our sort of SDR world. And we were, especially in the UK market, we went through a process with the AEs about mastering, taking clients on journeys, prospects on journeys. But then we actually then stripped it all back and looked at it and went, right, where are we winning? Why are we winning? How are we winning? And then from there, what we actually did is we analysed over 1,800 closed lost deals from the previous 2 years. Using AI, I will mention that as we get into it, and with our sales ops team, and that enabled us to really sort of look at, win rates, speed of win rates, opportunities where we were selling more than one product. We're a platform with 6 products, and essentially order values, client life cycles, and that it helped us determine sort of what we thought was a customer profile. We then matched that against industry news like Gartner, for example, Forrester Wave, who are sort of the thought leaders within our space. And that then helped us sort of plot on a graph, so to speak, sort of what is the ideal customer profile for our commercial space, and then also what is enterprise as well. So two very different areas. And you know what? There wasn't much too dissimilar findings within that, but the key thing was the trigger events, which I'll talk through in a second. But essentially, what we then determined was, if us as SDRs are taking ICP priority one opportunities to the AEs, the AEs are going to be more excited, they're going to be more engaged, and it allows us to then carry that deal all the way through the process in a succinct manner, which ultimately has resulted in, looking at the results that we've looked at today in our leadership meeting, was 85% roughly, if you match in enterprise and commercial, of our opportunities are now in that ICP space. We are still working ones outside, but they are ones that we are more engaged with the partners on, sort of the lower hanging sort of fruit that doesn't quite fit our profile. But we've made some great successes. So it was looking at the data, then the puzzle behind that, and then creating a really clear, succinct message, not only for SDRs, but also for the sales reps as well.
Yeah. I got a load of questions, but my gut tells me is there was a lot of like thought that went into this. This wasn't a chat around the coffee machine because the pipeline is down, and we said screw it, let's just change things. It sounds like this was a proper project. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to take all the credit for it, but our VP of Sales, Matt Ward, for the UK and I did a lot of this work, and I'm hanging off his coattails. But I have given him a shout out for that. But fundamentally, yeah, it was we want to be at the cutting edge, not only in technology and what we sell, but in terms of leading our customers through a journey, through our bow tie journey, as we call it, sort of before the sale and after the sale. And how can we be the trailblazers in our in the UK and the international markets to then take that and then push it out across the rest of the organization. So we were very much sort of the guinea pigs, one might say, for the project. But my goodness, the results have been, from reorganizing, which will come on to like the pod structure in terms of the AE, the BDR, SDR, solution engineer engagements, through to Zoom info, through to outreach, through to Salesforce. There are a lot of pieces in that, but once we aligned it all now, the results are definitely making waves. And we only started this and rolled it out at our SKO back at the start of January.
Okay. Wow. So you're already seeing what, like 6-8 weeks in, starting to see the impact. And I can imagine a couple of quarters out, you start to really see a massive dent, and that will build confidence across the whole of go-to-market. That not only was that exercise helpful, but actually I think what it teaches us a lot is actually I say this all the time, and I don't know if you feel this, sometimes we spend so much time in the business, not so much on the business. And sometimes you have to take a step back. And one of the things that I did when I was building Staff Circle, which was a HR tech business, and it's just a bit frustrating, it took so long to figure this out, but we really found significant win rates north of 50% if we looked at in Sales Navigator at the account, and you look at the distribution of those departments on like a pie chart. When we found HR was above a certain percentage, we knew that they'd significantly invested in people, which meant why would they not enable them with technology to go and do that job better, versus, I'm making this up, a company with 150 people and little old Mary in the back office with no windows in her office, probably don't see much value in HR, probably not going to go and spend 50 to 100 grand on a HR platform to make her life a little bit easier and drive business outcomes. So it's not just about the classic, which I see all of the time. We sell to 250 to 1,000 persons businesses in the UK in the manufacturing industry. There is a lot more to it, right? And you mentioned triggers and signals, which we'll get into. But I guess that was the helpful part, is because you had a group of people in the business say, let's actually work this as a project. You could take a step back and have a proper look from the outside in at what is and isn't working, and then get curious and kind of go from there. Is that Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously we are blessed being the organisation that we are with the with the sales operations, marketing operations support that we have. But I think it is, once you've identified that, and again, I think I remember when I started as an SDR, I worked in recruitment and I plugged in the technology space as well. I was really dialed in, and I would just go in and I'd literally load up, give me all the IT resellers in the UK, and I'm just going to call all of them. And that's not the way the world is now. The world has moved on, and again, back when I was an SDR, very rarely was there cold emails. It was all calls. So the mailboxes are fuller. The defenses that organizations have in terms of spam filters, blacklist, domains, etc. It is getting harder to cut through that noise. But if you can go in there with a targeted approach with trigger events, use cases, statistics, it still does work, but you've got to be able to back it up. And that then comes in. It's all well and good going out, going, right, these are our, rather than having an account list of 500 accounts, let's find the best 50 based on ICP, based on intent signals, all that good stuff. But then it's about, right, the people inside as well. So the people, if there's been a trigger, for example, a compliance issue in our world, or they've had a breach or something like that, who are the people that are actually going to genuinely care? Because you've got, you're above the lines, your VP, C-level executives, you're on the line, which is your managers day to day, and then you've got your below the line, which are your users. You've got to be able to gather intel with a different message to each one. So that's like the second part of the ICP, isn't it? You can nail the ICP, but if you can't then nail the message and the person, but it is a process. You can't just send a message out to somebody. You've got to follow that process of ICP, persona, message, triggers. Then it's down to execution, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I was doing an exercise with a sales organization the other week on site, and we were building account hypothesis and like POV engineering, so that now we've got the set of accounts that we really want to penetrate. How do we create really compelling messaging? And we just did really simple. I got a little framework that we used. They took a photo of it up on the big screen, dumped into GPT, and said, based on this template, I'm meeting making this up, VP of HR at this company. Here's a website.
Yeah.
Can you go and do the research and fill in all of the content? Okay. And then it built this hypothesis. And one of the things it pulled in was their financial data. So it showed over the last 3 years how revenue has grown, but EBITDA is staying the same, or profitability is staying the same or dropping. And then it hypothesized why that might be happening, aligned back to what that organization sells, so they can now take a really powerful message to that organization. Now, back in the day, doing that manually, I remember BT's annual reports like 256 pages. Like trying to read that thing would just take you forever. So you'd skip it, or maybe just do the first couple of pages, the chairman's letter. Where now we can hypothesize on lots of information very quickly, build a point of view, and then go to market with that account. And that is another layer of it that I think can come into it by, how is their financial data changing? And would that then warrant us going from tier 1 to tier 2? Does that kind of come into the play of things?
100%. I mean, I'll use where this example of ICPs really sort of hit home to me was Northern Europe again is one of the territories that the team I lead covers, and we've got a cloud-based just-in-time access product, which is a new product into our portfolio, and in Northern Europe can be a little bit, there can be tech hubs, a lot of cloud-based businesses in that area. So one of our BDRs like, right, I want to run a sales play into Northern Europe for this specific product. So we're speaking with the AE, and they found that they had one win with that product. I think it was in Sweden, and it was with an energy technology company. So the old school way was, right, let's go the whole of Sweden, let's go after all of them. But then what they did is they looked at what was the original message that we sent and what was the original talk track to that business. Then we looked at, right, that company there was 750 employees in that territory. And then we actually then looked at, so they're going to the whole of Sweden, not postcodes, but what region within Sweden is that? So then we looked at and go, right, let's go and pull all the companies between 250 and 750 employees in 100 miles, for example, of that company we sold to, and who was the person that we booked the original meeting with, and who are their sort of sideways personas or people at that level. And then what we did is we actually found 15 companies in that space, and we know that we could book the meeting because we had the right message, because it got us the original meeting. So we had to adapt it into certain language and triggers. But out of those 15 companies, and I'm showing 5 hands up, out of 15 companies, all right, we actually then booked 7 meetings because
Nice.
we knew the message, we knew the ICP, we knew everything about it. That's how, would you rather go and send 100 blanket messages, 100 random calls, or and that takes days and weeks and months to build, or do you go off those specific companies? And that's where it really hit home to me. So if I was in their shoes now, that that list of companies you put in, say, in Zoom Info for your territory, right? How do we now dig into that? How do you work with the AEs from their knowledge to tie in and go, right, I know that company, we had a closed loss opportunity there 2 years ago, they're a competitor, and build out a list of 50 accounts maximum. And then from there, what is the repeatable message? What is a repeatable talk track? Because look, we're creatures of habit. We can nail a talk track, nail a message, it gets ingrained in our medulla oblongata, as I say. And then from there, we're then able to scale.
Yeah, 100%. It reminds me of something we used to do at BT called 5-a-side, where you'd go to an industrial estate and sit a meeting, and then you go knock 5 doors. And it's easy when it's connectivity. You'd be like, "Kate, speaking to Simon next door, drives him mental. The connectivity problems here. Is that a problem that you're suffering with?" Yeah, it is. Do you mind if I come in and talk to you about it? It's a similar play, but just like a digital version, right? You're doing it virtually instead of in person. But
I still think that's valuable, Dave, because again, if you remember, I used to go on face-to-face meetings. Like, you go out in central London, you go to an office block, and then you cheekily just not try and get into random offices, but you'd go in, wouldn't you? And you'd knock on, and you'd get business cards and things like that. And that's we can't necessarily do that anymore. So we have to be smarter with how we then find the companies and that network, leveraging the network effect.
Yeah, I agree. I know maybe we're digressing a little bit, but that's why I love these conversations, because we can really get into it. But like, I was doing something with a team the other day. It's like, they're working a really important opportunity. They need to get some face time with the FD, but a lot of these reps just don't think that way anymore. And they were like, it's a long way to go for an hour's meeting. I said, well, go to Sales Navigator, go to the account page, take the postcode, put the postcode into the accounts, put in the other ICP information you've got. Surprise, surprise, you've now got a list of, I'm making it up, 27 accounts. Why don't you just phone them up and be like, "Hey, we're meeting with a couple of businesses on Thursday and Friday next week in your area to talk about this problem. Don't know if it's top of mind for you, but while I'm in the area, would it be okay if I stop by? We have a quick coffee chat. I talk to you about some of the work we're doing. We're lifting these outcomes," or whatever it might be. And it's amazing how, like, just having a really tight, like you said there, really like dialing down and zeroing in and honing in on a small set of data with a really powerful message can drive a really great outcome. But again, we're just now Clay and all these other databases, like more, spray and pray, and then blaming the tools, blaming the reps, spinning our wheels. And it sounds like you're doing the opposite. You're trying to get tighter into everything, drive a better conversation, which means you have to really think about the account and the message and bringing that all together, which is powerful. By the way, getting the good outcome.
100%. I was having a conversation with our strategic and enterprise team in the US the other day, and they're struggling to balance that methodology of being strategic, and they were getting really good results with that strategic approach because they have the slightly different operating model. Whereas then they were getting messaging coming down going, no, the activity, and they're like, well, I've got these 50 accounts. I know that half the numbers don't work because they're HQ numbers where you never get through anymore. I can dial them, but I'm never getting through, and I can mark them red on outreach. But in reality, that's not, you can hit the KPIs for hitting KPIs' sake, but you've got to make sure the data is correct and the message is correct. Otherwise, you are just hitting your head against a brick wall.
Yeah, 100%. So we've built the leading skill optimization platform with 400 plus sales lessons, 12 courses from prospecting all the way through to late stage deal negotiation and more, one-to-one sales coaching and AI sales assistance. And I want to give you 7 days free access to the platform. The reason I want to do this is because nobody gets a degree in B2B sales. And after training and coaching hundreds of sales reps and teams in the last 2 years, most haven't mastered critical selling skills, and it's preventing them from being promoted, earning great money, and building a great career in B2B sales. So go to the revenueenabler.com, grab a free trial, and join hundreds of salespeople that are closing their skill gaps and mastering sales. There's a link in the video description. I'm looking forward to getting you set up. Give me a shout with any questions. I want to talk about the pod setup, but just before we do that, there's a really simple exercise that may be really, really basic to you and I, but I think it could be quite valuable to listeners. So when I went to my last org, I won't go into too much detail for obvious reasons, but I don't think they had the ICP really nailed on. I think there was maybe lack of clarity. And when I looked at HubSpot, there was 100,000 contacts in there, and a lot of them were for a persona that, after I ran the exercise, was only involved post-sale and in very few number of customers. So when we ran the exercise, I literally just ran it on two sets of data. One is new logo, one is expansion and renewal. And I just basically pulled the last 10 customers we closed, because it was enterprise. It wasn't like there wasn't loads. Last 10 customers we closed, one new logo. What was the company? What was the industry? What was the size? Who was the persona? And then like 3 whys. Yeah. And then did the same on expansion. And then look, again, AI wasn't really there at that point. So I just looked at that data set and I was like, where are the patterns and where are the trends in this? And the expansion stuff, where I would argue we've got really good fit, they're getting value and they're buying more of, versus new logo was quite different. So maybe we're actually just pumping stuff in at the top end and we're going to get churn. And the whole point of the exercise, I guess, partly of what you guys were doing was, how do we actually bring the right customers in so that they stick around, they buy more, and then we haven't got a oh shit problem later when they're all churning and now the sales target's gone up because we've got to replace and we still need growth. And we did that exercise just on a Google sheet. It took me about 2 hours to pull the data, and it hit me in the face that actually that job title that dominates our database and our outreach has never driven a primary sale. And when it has got access to the platform, it has been an afterthought and at a very small number. So again, such a simple exercise can help you move forward from spinning your wheels going, we're doing all the activity, we've increased the activity, we've brought in more headcount, we've changed the messaging, we're just saying it to the wrong people.
Yeah. And I think that way, if you're then able to double down on it, and this is again something that we're thinking about at the moment, is obviously, pipeline is great, qualified opportunities are great, everyone is happy, but if you're throwing a load of opportunities in which aren't ICP, which are low deal value, you have to generate more because the pipeline is not growing, is it? And it's not good pipeline. Whereas if you get good ASP, good average sales price, good first year recurring revenue with good deals in ICPs, the pipeline will grow and grow and grow, which then means actually we need to generate less opportunities.
Yes.
Which is weird, generating less opportunities, but the opportunities we are generating are better quality, higher recurring revenue. Everyone then is happy. It releases a little bit of pressure because we know that when we get an opportunity, it's going to have a shorter sales cycle. It's going to be higher dollar value. It could then potentially be multi-product, because we've gone about it in the right way, because we know it's just not a company that's just going to buy one of our products on 5 licenses. Actually, they've got multiple challenges, which then means the account then grows after we've sold them. They become more sticky. So that is future thinking that everyone wants, but you've got to start somewhere, haven't you?
100%. I was on a call this morning with an org that we might be doing some business with around, well, there's 2 things, but they're like deal execution, so medic, and then pipeline generation. And I was like, there's kind of 2 levers we pull. We can't really fix both of those with a set of AE, full cycle AEs. No SDR organization. Can't really fix both of those at the same time. Those are 2 massive sets of skills and then skills inside of them, right? So I was like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to really fix the deal execution piece and then get more value from the stuff you're getting? Or do you just want to chuck more noise in there and you might hit a higher pipeline number? But I'd actually rather have less opportunities that are aligned to a really good ICP, knowing that we're going to win 50, 60, 70% of them at a higher price point. They're going to stick, they're going to buy more, and they're going to advocate for us, versus going, oh, screw it, let's just chuck more at the top. And if the win rate stays the same or drops a little bit, at least we've got more pipeline to deal with. It's just the unnecessary stress and cost. So that is the beauty of the exercise you've done, is that you will feel that value now over time of increased win rates, less stress on the SDRs and BDRs to keep pushing out more numbers, burning out, churning, rinse and repeat, that kind of stuff. But again, people just can't be asked, Simon, to do the hard work.
Yeah.
They're just like, screw it, we'll just hire another one. And if they burn out, we'll just hire another one. We'll blame marketing.
Or you live off the coattails of your VP like I have.
Yeah,
Claim
live the dream. Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, at least you've admitted, right? A lot of people to come in there and be like, all my idea. But yeah, love it. Now, I know a lot of listeners will probably be here for the pod thing, because people have been trying to get this thing right for ages, right? Even going back from when I was a rep. So, talk to us about like the relationship between SDRs, AEs. You mentioned like sales engineering. Is there like a CSM that's allocated to a pod as well? Like, do you have that whole, like you mentioned, like the bow tie? Is there like a pod, a line across that? Maybe walk the listeners through how you currently structure that at the moment.
Yeah. So again, when I joined, just over 2 years ago, we had this pod structure. It actually came out of a theory by our Northern Europe sales director, chap called Stig Mogensen, and he developed this concept of this pod. But again, it was just the BDR and it was just the AE. Okay, so what we tried to change the narrative and get everyone to think, right, the AE is like the CEO, because they own the pipeline number, they own essentially the closed won value of it. Okay, but then a CEO can't do everything by themselves, so they have to divvy up and they have to move the moving pieces constantly. So we tried to evolve that concept of it, because fundamentally, a solutions engineer knows a lot about the technicalities of the deal, how solid the technicalities of that deal are, whether we can fit the use case, if we need to evolve the use case. You've also got marketing. So field marketers or digital marketers, where they are doing events, they're doing webinars, all those types of things as well. You've then got what we have account development reps, who are responsible for sort of existing customers alongside the BDRs, but they're also there for sort of add-ons, extra licenses, and sort of moving sort of the smaller deals behind the scene, working with partners. And then you've also got the CSMs, so the customer success managers, who look more sort of enterprisey as well. So there's a different number of people that can make up this pod. So what we try and align with is they have a big pod meeting either once a month or once a quarter, where everyone has like a dashboard, or should have a dashboard, which has sales target, pipeline target, which obviously anywhere between 4 and 5x is the ideal number. Everyone has their own sort of pipeline goal within that bigger pipeline number. They'll all have their top customers. So, I use the 80-20 principle of, the top 20% of your accounts will generate 80% of your revenue. Right, what's going on with those lower hanging accounts, the accounts that will have gold in there if they're worked properly? What events are coming up that we can get customers to? So there is a lot in there to talk about, and they can pull all the different levers to essentially get their pod moving in different directions. So that's the overarching pod. But what we've designed then in the BDR world is that the way the structure is that majority of our BDRs are aligned to 3 to 5 AEs, okay, depending on territory, etc. And that equates to 1 day a week, basically, per AE. So what we've then tried to design is based on the target market, the ICP. They will have a list of accounts pre-built in Zoom Info, target list based on 10 ICPs that they review every single week. So the BDR will take that list, prescribed it, and go, right, these are the accounts I'm working. These are the contacts I found right now on sequence, and this is the update. Then they'll do the same on existing customers to go, right, 70% of our customers in our organization only own one product. And that is a massive gap in our view. So it's like, right, which of these existing customers are trending, or showing intent, looking for that trigger, because there's no point calling a company which at the moment doesn't have any intent signals, because there might not be going on. Let's focus on the intent signals as to why they might then be in the market for looking at something to do with their security posture. And then obviously the A's have then got their own target accounts in our sales base. So, but the key behind it is the preparation. Don't just show up to that pod meeting and go, oh, how was that opportunity I booked for you last week? Yeah, you're going to move it to stage 2. Oh, I need that for my target. Yeah, that's not the methodology that we're going in there. So the view is that if everyone has access to that spreadsheet or that dashboard, either through Power BI, through Salesforce, or just an old school Excel sheet, everyone then has to present back. in that everyone has their own swim lane, as I call it as well, that they're responsible for, and they then have to showcase, right, these are the 5 companies that I targeted last week based on this intent. I ran this sales play for this product. Right, what do you think of that message, Mr. AE? Is there anything you would change in there? Okay, so working together hand in hand, looking for that right messaging and the right people to message in that. And the AE might turn around and go, that message is the wrong message for that persona, right, let's switch it up. And then for the existing customers, it's about, not just booking business review, quarterly technical review meetings with the same person they have done for the last 5 years. Yeah, it's about going and finding other people in the security team, other people in the engineering team, for example, in the cloud team, who have all got different use cases, but then going, right, Mr. AE, this is the company which has got one product, right, I've noticed this, who do we now need to go and target? Do you know any referrals? So it's that game sharing to really then help. And also it brings the closeness because everyone's accountable. And I think that's where a lot of these structures fall down, is they do it for a month and then it just gets, oh, it's end of quarter, I've got loads of deals to chase, can't be bothered to do it. So every single week, typically when it's like, James, if you're on my AE, I'll focus on your accounts and your target accounts on Tuesday. So we'll get together Tuesday morning, 8:30 a.m., 15, 20 minutes, have a quick business review, and I'll go, right, this is what the plan is. And also they'll go, based on the opportunities I booked for you last couple of weeks, how was the qualification? Did I miss anything? What questions would you have asked? So it's that sharing exercise as well. So it might sound like a lot, and it was quite a lot when we first started it. We had lots of hiccups, we still do, but it's that repetition. Yeah, it's the repetition that everyone is prepared every single week for that meeting.
Love it. Anyone that's listening to this, it sounds really professional. But that's a good thing.
Right, that's the first time anyone's called me professional in a while.
Well, there you go. Like, I'm looking for some good feedback at the end of the day, Simon. But yeah, it sounds really professional. I was on a call with the CEO of a £100 million business recently, and he said one of the things is we just need to professionalize the sales organization. It's very behind in everyone else, and I don't know if you see this in other places and other people we speak to, but I do feel like because we've stumbled into sales, our tagline is nobody gets a degree in B2B sales. My 2-year-old, who's obsessed with Paw Patrol, is not telling me he wants to be an enterprise AE and sell £1 million software. So we stumble into it. There's no degree. Really kind of poor in most organizations in terms of how we enable people and professional. And it sounds like really professional. We meet up. You have to do prep work. There's swim lanes. You are accountable for giving a quality update, not just a naff. Yeah, it weren't great, mate.
Yeah.
It sounds really professional, which is, again, probably why it's working really, really well, where most people, like you said, they spin it up because they read a blog once and they say, do you know what, we'll give this one a crack. And then 3 weeks later, that didn't work. We didn't do any proper work. We didn't do any prep work. We didn't follow through with it. We turned it off.
And I think the key thing is, well, it's the setting the standards, and we talk a lot about standards. As I say to everyone, our standards are there. We're not going to drop those standards. Anything, the standards are going to get higher. So, for example, when any new person joins our organization, whether you're a BDR, whether you're an AE, I will always get on a call with that new AE, with that new BDR, run that introduction to say, look, these are the 3 pillars that the BDRs are responsible for. They're responsible for, old school, new logo, Zoom info list, targeted outreach. They're responsible for sales plays alongside marketing, where they'll identify a set of accounts. We run a sales play based on, like we're doing one at the moment around agentic AI. And non-human identities in organizations, which is massive at the moment as well. And then also they're responsible for, customer accounts. So based on that, this is typically how the pod structure runs. I'll outline the territories. So we set that standard kind of from day one. And then quite often myself or the regional leader will dip in and out of pod meetings. We'll jump in and go, right, let's do a holistic business review of it. And we'll load up Power BI and go, right, this is the pipeline generated from you, Mr. AE, from you, Mr. BDR, and then via the partner channel as well. So I forgot to mention partners, very important. They should have been in that original pod briefing that I gave. And then we will jump in and we'll question everybody. For example, do you know what his target is? Do you know what her pipeline goal is? Do you know what the key partners are in the region? So we'll literally run a bit of a Q&A with them just to recalibrate and bring them back on track a little bit, because we look for the leading and lagging indicators. If an AE is starting to struggle, or an AE or BDR is starting to struggle, activity is there, etc. What then underneath the hood do we then need to work on? And look, the support that we get from the regional leaders as well is phenomenal. They're all massively bought into it. And I think, our CRO Brent was in the UK a few weeks ago and had I was able to sit down with him and chat through, what is going to help. What fuel can the BDR organization give to the AE organization to really help up level and get them? How can we contribute? And he basically just said, I need everyone to work better and closer together.
Yeah.
That was very simple. And that then comes back down to the pods.
Yeah. And so it really is that simple, right? Just working better together. There's no, I want you to buy like a million AI tools. I want you just like spam out more stuff to the database. It's like, I just want us to work closely together. And actually, someone said to me the other day, again, it was really senior exec, said, I just want these people to be proud of the work they do. Like, again, if you ask most SDRs and AEs, like at the end of the week, are you proud of the work you did this week? I can almost guarantee you majority of them said not really. I can almost guarantee those ones don't get the outcomes that they need to.
And do you know why that is? Is because it is a graft, and some weeks they might not book any meetings. And I'm quite a visual person. Go a little bit off topic here, but I say to everyone at the start of the week, right, I'm not into that. Everyone is old enough, ugly enough, been in sales long enough to know what they need to do to hit target. I'm not going to sit here and go, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. But I'm a visual person, so I get everyone at the start of the week, right. Write down your goals in your book. Write them down in your book, and when you've done it, just tick it off. As in, if you haven't booked a meeting at the end of the day, but you've added 30 new people to a sequence, you found 5 new ICP accounts, cross them off, because then you've got that sense of achievement. And that is the real sort of key thing behind it. And then you can take it in and show your pods.
Yeah, literally. And after the episode, text me the office address, because I wrote these planners. I bought these planners last year called Hit Your Numbers, and it's one planner per quarter. And you write down your goal for the quarter, and then every day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it says, what are my pipeline goals and what did I learn today? And it's like a little, so I'll ship you guys a couple, because I think the team will quite like it. But it's like, we're adults now. Let's just visualize where do we want to be by the end of the week, and let's just work our ass off to get there. And let's be proud of the work that we've done. And you will be surprised. You'll have a better outcome. But again, a lot of people just want where are you getting your data from these days? And should I move from Salesloft to Gong? Sorry, it's not going to fix the problem.
It goes back to the methodology, and I'm a big believer in this. We call it the ICE methodology. So you're intentional, you're consistent, and then you execute. So you're intentional about the ICP, you're intentional about the persona, you're intentional about the conversation in your pod. You're consistent in meeting every single week for your pod. You're consistent in your activity. You're consistent in everything to do with the role. And then the execution is then down to all of those 2 bits before. The execution is enablement. I can help everyone execute by doing role plays, by looking at business plans. But then it's now down to hit your number.
Get on with it. We're ready to go. So just go out and get accountable, get gritty. It's tough. That's why we get paid the most amount of money, and we've got the great opportunity ahead of us to build a really great career.
Exactly. Control those controllables.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, love it. If anyone hasn't picked up yet, Simon clearly knows what he's talking about, because he's like, we've not had to edit anything out. Can really just clearly articulate a lot of this stuff. So I'd highly recommend that you go. We'll put your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, but go give Simon a follow. If you're an SDR, like stepping up into like your first sales job, or you want to become an AE and you're not happy where you are, again, I'd go follow Simon, because at some point he's going to have an open vacancy, and there's not many managers that go into this level of depth. We all know there's a lot out there that just demand more, don't try and fix the problem, burn you out, and then just rip and replace. So not to do some lovely sponsorship for you, but highly recommend that you do go follow Simon, because it's not often that you find people that can just clearly talk about this stuff like it's just natural. You know what I mean? So I think our listeners are going to get a lot of value from the conversation today.
I appreciate that, and I'm a great believer in the multiplier effect. So multipliers versus diminishers. Everyone has levels of intelligence in certain different areas, and if anyone can share anything that is going to help multiply the intelligence of another individual, we're not about ring fencing and hoarding intelligence. We've got to, it's a tough gig, isn't it? the XDR world. It's a tough gig, BDR, SDRing, and the more intelligence that we can share across every community, we're only going to help people progress to that next level, to go on to be an AE, to go on to be CROs. That's the ultimate game. And yeah, multipliers are the ones that always make it.
Yeah, agreed. It's the only reason I do the podcast. I don't have to do it. Only reason I run my business is because I genuinely have seen that when you invest in people and you help them close skill gaps, surprise, surprise, they go out and do great things. Yeah. So it's epic. I genuinely love this part of my job of being able to interview people like you, and you be able to tell your story and share little nuggets. And maybe there's a rep listening to this or a VP listening going, do you know what? We're headbutting the wall on this. Maybe we'll do this pod thing. Maybe we'll give it a go for 6 months, 9 months, and maybe I'll tap Simon up and ask him a couple of questions, or maybe I'll do that exercise with the ICP and look at the patterns across expansion and new logo and see if we can really hone in on. So if anyone takes anything from it today, that's a big win. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy and we're over 5 p.m. here, so I don't want to get invoiced.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and really enjoyed the conversation. And thank you for hosting, James. And good luck to all the hustlers out there, all the BDRs, XDRs, AEs coming up to the quarter end. So good luck to everyone, and thanks again, James.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back on at some point, maybe later in the year, to get the full update on all of the hard work that you've been doing, see it plays out. We'll avoid in the Q4 though, because we all know what that's like. But maybe back end of the summer, we'll come on and maybe celebrate all of the hard work that you've been doing. But thank you so much for taking the time. And anyone else that's listening, go follow Simon, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Hit Your Numbers podcast. All right, thanks for listening to this episode. I've got something else I want to give you before we wrap up here. So we've built the leading skill optimization platform with 400 plus sales lessons, 12 courses from prospecting all the way through to late stage deal negotiation and more, one-to-one sales coaching and AI sales assistance. And I want to give you 7 days free access to the platform. The reason I want to do this is because nobody gets a degree in B2B sales. And after training and coaching hundreds of sales reps and teams in the last 2 years, most haven't mastered critical selling skills. And it's preventing them from being promoted, earning great money, and building a great career in B2B sales. So go to therevenueenabler.com, grab a free trial, and join hundreds of salespeople that are closing their skill gaps and mastering sales. There's a link in the video description. I'm looking forward to getting you set up. Give me a shout with any questions.